this. This is my favorite.
I did a small one with Joey, like, right when I was done.
Yeah.
So it's kind of...
This is like chapter 3.
Because I joined right when y'all started getting more successful. Like,
yeah.
I got, like, the good price.
Yeah.
Which, the pre-inflation price.
Yeah, it's inflation, man.
Yeah.
Inflation, supply and demand. But, yeah. How's it look?
That's
Cool.
better.
It didn't have to be absolutely perfect. This is partially rudimentary setup.
Yeah.
But I like to just dive right into these things, like, very raw. And I got a few things, like, that I think we should kind of go over because it'd be super valuable for people. But, yeah, I think we should kick it off.
Let's do
Let's
it.
have a conversation.
Go.
Cool. All right. Welcome to the video, guys. I'm here with Alex Guerrera. Alex, let's just dive right into this thing.
Yeah, let's go.
What I first want people to know is just the results. Like, what were the overall results? What did you experience?
Man, so we started, it's going on 3 years, man. 3 years.
3 years.
I was with Default Kings for a year, like under the program. We just kept going and going. And I don't want to say there's no final result because it's just, I changed my life trajectory after this. But I've lost at one point up to 50 pounds. Was very lean. I think I'm like about 40 right now, but I'm at the point where I really just have that mental confidence, that ability to just kind of flip the switch on and off and control my mentality, know where I'm at, and the weight loss, the food, the exercise, it's not hard anymore. You just dial it up and down like we were talking about with, the different things in your life.
Yeah.
You just need to know you're going to have your priorities, but at the same time, you also got to give way for other things in your life.
Yeah.
And I think, Default Kings kind of helped me get that, really get that perspective.
Yeah, get it under control. Because you went hard for that year. And how long did it take you to lose the 50 pounds? Was that just about a year or was it about a year and a half?
Yeah, about a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Year and a half. I was really content with my weight loss right at the year mark.
Yeah.
And then after I left the program, it's like I hit another level, which is great. Like you guys gave me the tool set, and then I hit that like secondary level afterwards.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's incredible, man. So lost about 50 pounds over the course of like a year and a half. Like the absolute leanness was visible six pack.
Yeah,
like that. When I see those pictures still to this day versus your before pictures, I'm like, that's metamorphosis.
Yeah, dude. I'm not rocking the six pack right now, but I just look at the pictures. I'm like, I know exactly what I need to do to get there. And with the education and the mindset, it's like, okay, it'll take me, if I go hard at it, 60 days. I'll get back there.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of found this spot where you like to hover and maintain.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's what most people need to know is in the journey of weight loss. Like, you will absolutely sprint to like your goal, but then once you get to that low weigh-in, you don't just have to like be a freak and just like keep going forever that hard, but you also can't revert back. You kind of find literally like a 5 to 10 pound range that you just maintain at. And if you get into a season of life where, hey, like I want to tighten things up a bit, cool. Like my default actions are in play, I'm maintaining. I want to tighten up even more, get a little bit leaner. Awesome, I can sprint if I want, and then I can maintain again. And it just becomes part of your life and something that you manage like everything else.
Yeah, I think Default Kings really help you put all the macros into perspective, like all the very core important things like eating protein, staying under a calorie deficit if you're trying to lose weight, and you master those things. I've mastered those things with you guys. And now, like Joey says, I like to go into the micro optimizations. So I'll start messing around with fasting, messing around with a carnivore type diet, and you start experimenting and see what works for you. But at the end of the day, you always default to those macros, and that's how you stay where you want to be.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. I love it. So what I think would be really interesting for people to hear is just the actual journey. Like when we first talked, can you tell people a little bit about just where you're at?
Yeah, I was in a really bad place mentally. Just a little bit over 30 years old. And I remember I was like chubby. a little fatty all my adulthood because I got married really young. I was very immature, made a lot of mistakes, and I was going through a separation at that time. And I remember at 20, I'd be like, by 25, I'm gonna be fit. At 25, I'm like, by 30, I'm gonna be fit. 30 hits, I'm not fit. And then, you know, everything happened with my relationship, and things were just going downhill in pretty much most aspects of life. And that's when I said, okay, need to change. And that's when I ran into you guys. Someone, Monica, recommended me.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a
right.
random Twitter friend. She's
Yeah.
like, hey, you need to go talk to these guys.
Yeah.
And introduced me to Jack at the time. And then you were the one that I spoke to. And just kind of how you took almost like an hour, just like getting to know me, like really drilling in deep to my mentality of things.
Yeah.
And I've always known about weight loss, like very specific things. I had a nutrition certification and I just wasn't putting it all together. And then I start this journey and I still have this screenshot saved of like 2 weeks in. There's really not much progress. It's like a before and after picture. And y'all were just like motivating me. And I was just like, ha ha ha, like they're just trying to be nice. And he's like, I think Jack or you say, he's like, pretty soon you're not gonna even recognize this guy. And I have that screenshot saved.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, like here we are. I'm like, who is that dude? That's not me.
Yeah. That's incredible. And you have so many like before and afters that I think are, when I see them, I'm just like,
It's like, I helped that guy.
Yeah, when people see them, they're like, oh my God, you literally look like a different human being. But yeah, I remember that initial conversation 3 years ago, and dude, like, I have conversations with people all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I hear everything you can think of. And like, everybody's going through something. Literally everybody's going through something. It's funny, people think that they're alone, and it is true that everybody has a unique struggle, but that doesn't mean, like, the patterns are very similar between person to person to person. The reason I say this is because I've talked to like 20 different people that I'm like, yeah, I heard this conversation before.
Yeah.
But I remember when we first talked, I was kind of shocked, I guess, by how much you already knew in terms of the basics. Like, I remember, I can't remember, I think you actually held up like a nutritional, like the certification or a textbook or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, look.
I'm interested in this stuff. I like it. I know a
Yeah.
lot about it. Yeah.
Like, across the Zoom, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, this is really interesting. Like, you know the basics of what you need to do, you just haven't been consistent with it. So I think that's the pattern a lot of people fall into. Not everybody has like a nutritional certification or anything like that. But everybody kind of knows, okay, I'm eating too much, I'm not exercising consistently enough. So when you started that journey, what was it for you that allowed you to not just like, no, yeah, I need to do this, but actually start doing it consistently?
You guys did not overcomplicate it. So if you look at the curriculum or any type of information of a nutrition certification or education, there is a lot of complex things. Even in your typical, fitness searching online, whether it's professional or just via socials,
Yeah.
you're getting a lot of people that are just explaining things very detailed. They're going into the micro things, right?
Yeah.
Keto diet, carnivore diet, vegetarian, blah 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 blah. So and those things work for different people. Different things work, but you're just so focused on doing this. Like so many people, it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing keto.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not about the keto. Like
Yeah.
it's all in here, and it's all, calorie deficit, protein, and you guys drove that home along with the mental side of it. And that's where I felt that I was able to make the change without making it too complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Like the force multipliers, just the basics of what leads to the transformation are calorie deficit, protein, and resistance training. Those are the default actions. So to take that layer deeper, you talk about the mental side of things, right? Because some people even know that. Some people even know, I know I'm just eating too many calories.
Yep.
I know I need to eat more protein. I know I need to lift weights. The mental side of things, what were you struggling with, I guess, on the mental side of things?
I think is, when your emotions are running one way, we all look at food for comfort. And I think that was probably one of the the big things and not really having a, your goal. It's weird because some people can have a specific goal. I want to lose 50 pounds, or they just have a general goal. I need to lose weight. But I feel like your goal needs to be, I need to change my lifestyle. How do you change your lifestyle? One day at a time. And I feel that's what I was doing. You guys gave me the tools and the support to be able to really make that one day at a time, like tracking your stuff. It kind of made it like a game. It's like you look at let's take not into baseball as much anymore, but there's 162 games in a season. And if you look at the first place teams, they'll win 100 games and they'll be in first place most of the time.
Yeah.
So that means they lost 62 games.
Yeah.
So they lose. It's like at a 2-to-1 ratio. They win at a 2-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
So I recognize, okay, there's going to be days where I lose, but let's just get as many W's as possible.
Yeah.
And you start stringing that along. All of a sudden, let's say you have 25 wins and only 5 losses in a month. That's going to reflect in your body composition and on the scale too.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It comes down to like, what is your normal, honestly, almost, right? Like, what do you consistently go back to? Because impossible would be perfect, right? I think some people come in and they have the idea of like, hey, I want to change my lifestyle, and I'm going to be perfectly disciplined. Like, I want to be able to work out every single time I don't feel like it. And I'm like, no.
Always going to come up.
Yeah, something's always going to come up. Life just happens. Like, by definition, you are not going to be perfect. But what's your normal? What do you default to, right?
Right. And it's always in the beginning. So if you can I do feel like you have to be a little bit hard in the beginning and say, no, this is the priority.
Yeah.
And don't let anything get in the way of that.
Yeah.
Right? Then after a while, when it becomes that routine, that lifestyle, it starts to become a lifestyle, then, sure, life's going to happen. You might miss a few workouts.
Yeah.
You might eat bad a few days or a week, but you just got to get right back into the path. And you already know what you got to do. You've been doing it. You've proved to yourself that you can do it. So just don't stay off.
Yeah.
Get back on.
That's awesome. Yeah, so something a lot of guys struggle with is like literally not being able to say no to the crappy food, right? Like they know, and the donut or whatever stares them in the face, and they have that conversation where they're like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. I know this is what leads to, me gaining the weight, but they give it. So what have you found mentally helps you overcome those moments? We're not talking about being perfect, right? But most of the time you're in complete control.
Yeah.
So what changed for you that allowed you to win those mental battles?
Just putting it all into perspective, realizing this is kind of science, it's kind of math. So, if it's a donut that's my weakness and I really want a donut, I can eat the donut. Just, you gotta make sure that you are within your calories is so easy. Like, it makes, why are we living life on hard mode? I know there's some people that they don't like the whole idea of calorie counting. There's other ways to lose weight. But if you're in that struggle where you're just, at the overweight or obese mark, it's just the most simplest thing. And that's what it was for me. So I knew it's like, man, my weakness is nachos. Like, dude, I'm going to go to this Mexican restaurant and eat a bunch of chips and nachos, but I know I can't do that the rest of the week. And I got to work hard. Or if it's just like a specific food, all right, this food's got 500 calories. Well, guess what? You're not going to eat something else later on that's calorically dense. Because you've already ate all that.
I love that because I think when you actually track your calories, number one, just the act of doing it gives you a moment to pause and really consider, like, here's the caloric value of this thing. I 100% can do it. I can do it. And if I do it, all that means is I need to budget differently elsewhere. So you get to have that like logical conversation with yourself of, do I really want this? Versus the emotional conversation of, oh no, don't do it. I guess I did it.
It's like what we do with our finances, right?
Yeah.
You get a paycheck, you get a $5,000 paycheck. Well, okay, my goal is to spend $4,000 because I need to save $1,000. It's like, do I really want to buy this electronic or
Yeah,
whatever,
whatever it is.
you know, you just gotta.
It's this,
Sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes it's not.
it's literally budgeting.
Yeah.
Right. It's literally budgeting your calories, so it makes it very logical.
Unfortunately, they don't even teach budgeting in school.
Right. They don't teach financial budgeting or caloric budgeting. That's really interesting. I love the financial analogy because people understand that like when you spend more than you make, you accumulate debt. Right. It's the same thing in calories where if you eat more than you burn, you accumulate debt. But the caloric debt is stored on your body in the form of body fat. Right? So you're walking around with this caloric debt, which is like I love to granularize it for people. Every ounce of fat, excess fat on your body, is calories that were overconsumed. That's what it was. It's not like, man, why can't I get rid of this belly fat? Like, where did this come from? It's just like I got older. No,
It's like
you
the
just-
dollar bills that,
it just-
like the quarters.
Yeah, those are calories that you ate in excess of what you burned. That's literally what it is. And so when you put it that way, and you start to think about it logically, almost as budgeting your calories, you can say, oh, this is very simple. All I have to do is consume in deficit of what I'm burning. Very, very simple, right?
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that they understand the financial side of things, but they're not equating the health aspects of that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So now is time to realize that, because if not, you're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
You're
So
gonna store that fat.
right. I want to get a little bit deeper here because you bring up this point. Something I've definitely realized is that most of the guys who we work with and most of the guys who struggle with their weight, first off, like most people struggle with their weight. 75% of the population at this point is overweight or obese. So most people struggle with it. But most of the guys that we work with, they're not actually like completely lazy idiot slobs who just like aren't successful in any area of life. It's actually usually the guys who have something else going for them or other things going for them, where like they're disciplined in their work or in their business or their family life or whatever else it may be. And they're just like, I just don't know why this one area of life I just can't figure out. And I try to remind them, like, you're not an undisciplined guy, right? You just have
a good point.
certain behaviors in this one area of life. So there's Arnie, you know, he's like, yeah, it's true. But I'm curious too on the identity side of things. So many guys have like no reason why they should be struggling with this, but they still are. And they see themselves as just a person who struggles with that. So for you, on the deeper side of things, like what was your identity around this area of your life, and how did that change? How did that identity shift happen?
You know, as a man, it's really interesting that you say that, because as a man, you want to fulfill other things. So what do I want to do? I want to be a good provider. Mm-hmm. You want to be a good boyfriend or husband. Mm-hmm. You want to be a good father, a good child to your parent, or son or daughter to your parent.
Yeah.
And you're all focused on, identifying yourself as good in these aspects of life, a good worker, good financial success. But then what about your core self? What do you want to be for you? And this is one thing, it hit me. It didn't hit me, but I remember my ex-wife told me this. She's like, you're like, oh, you're saying you're going to do this for me, this for the family. Like, what are you going to do for you? And like, I always remembered that.
Dang.
And after that, that's when I was like, okay, I need to seek help. So I'll always be very thankful that she said that specifically.
Yeah.
And then it led me into this trajectory.
Wow.
So it was just that, we're just focused on other things. And it's like, sometimes you have to be, we see selfishness as something bad.
Yeah.
Which, that person is selfish. That's not good. But take it to another level. Selfishness could actually be a good thing. If you're in, when you're on a plane, right? And they say in the event of emergency, put the oxygen mask on yourself before helping someone else with it. So it's like, how can you help others if you're not helping yourself?
Yeah. Wow.
And that's where it hit me. And at this point in my life, like, that's where the journey really started into figuring myself out, being content within myself, and then being able to really expand on those other qualities, because you need that before
That's powerful. And dude, like that story of your ex-wife asking you that question is dagger.
Yeah, yeah, it was. And at that moment, I was just like frustrated.
Yeah.
And it didn't hit me. It hits me now. You know, every so often I think about that. I'm like, wow, she wouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of things that are told to you in certain moments and you're not going to realize till later.
Yeah.
Wow, that's super impactful.
Yeah, I agree with that completely, man. That's huge. And yeah, so many guys struggle with literally just their primary issues that they deprioritize themselves and prioritize everything else, but they forget that they're the foundation of everything they're trying to accomplish. So like business matters, so I want to take care of my health. But if you as the business owner suffer, your business is a reflection of you. My family matters, my kids matter. I need to spend as much time with them as humanly possible. This is a controversial one, and I don't have kids. I'm curious your thought on this as a father. But
Love to talk about that.
yeah, like I remember one day I asked my dad, "Hey, Dad," we were just talking about like kind of his journey, and that's something I've talked about all the time. But I was like, "When did it kind of start to like fall apart for you? When did you start deprioritizing your health?" And he jokingly said, "Like the day you were born." And I was like, "Oh, geez, okay." But what he meant was, he explained was, yeah, when you were born, I started to almost make this excuse of I need to spend all this time with the kids. I need to spend all this time with the kids. I need to spend all this time with the kids. And the crazy thing was that when I got older, 15, 16, 17, I wasn't thinking or asking like, oh, my dad only spent an hour with us at dinner today. Arnie's getting excited over there. I wasn't thinking like, oh, he only spent an hour with us at dinner today. I wish he spent 90 minutes with us.
Yeah.
I was just like, I want my dad to be here and to be good. I just want him to be here and to be good. Like, I would way rather have had at that time a dad who spent, Arnie, you're okay, bud.
He's just with you on this.
Yeah, he's with me. He's getting stressed out. There's another dog. He's having fun. But I would have way rather just have had a dad who was like spent a little bit less time with us, but took care of himself, right? Like that is what I would have rather had as a son. And so like I think from what I've seen.
This is hilarious.
Doing podcasts with the dog, just
It's raw, man.
super raw. But from what I've seen, like if there's one thing I wish dads can understand is that your children are not counting up the seconds that you spend with them.
No.
Your children actually don't care the total amount of time that you spend with them. They care about the quality of the time that you spend with them. And if you spend 60 minutes with them or 2 hours with them, if you're not present because you're stressed out because you have no way of coping with stress, or if you have a low sense of self-doubt, so you can't avoid putting that onto them. And if you're stressed out, so you're lashing out and you're having issues with mom because you don't prioritize your relationship. If that time you spend with them is lower quality because you are lower quality, they're going to end up resenting you for any amount of time they spend with them, and that's when they don't want to spend time with you. It's not because they literally don't like the times, because they don't like who you are in that time when you're with them.
Yeah.
So I'd way rather have had my dad spend more time on himself, so the time he did spend with me was higher quality, and he understands that now, which is amazing. But like, as a father, what are your thoughts on that?
How can you be 100% in other aspects of your life if you're not 100% in your core self? So it's like, yeah, you can be a badass at business, you can be a great husband, you can be a great dad, whatever, great athlete, you name it. But you're never going to reach 100 because you're not 100 at that core self. So you can be good at it, but you want to hit another level, you want to hit another PR.
Yeah.
You got to take care of that first. And that's absolutely the thing that changed my life. And now I'm affecting other people's lives, mainly my daughter's.
Yeah.
Because I realized that.
Talk to me about that. How have you seen that impact?
Dude, it's been incredible to see this little girl just evolve into a beast, so to say.
Yeah.
So, as you know, I'd always hear you guys talk about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was like, okay, what the hell is that? Yeah. But y'all always talk about it. It's like one day, go across the street, I was like, hey, look, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was like, you want to try that? She had just tried Taekwondo, and it was like, meh, you can kick the air and stuff.
Yeah.
But all parents, they want their kid to be in something.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, let's go try it out together. And this was
Before we even get into this,
yeah,
the fact that you could try it out with her was an accomplishment.
exactly, yeah. That's
Because
the
you
thing.
prioritized yourself, took care of yourself, and now you see an opportunity to connect with your daughter in a high level. Like, I can participate in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because I got myself in shape.
Yes.
So that's like, that in itself is a massive, most people never even get there.
Yeah, and I'm going to get deep into that because I think that's important, especially for the dads out there that want to make an impact in their kids. And this is why I feel like my daughter has progressed so much, is because we are our best selves and we can go out there and do what they're doing. So we go and then, we try out the class. I'm like, what the heck is this? I didn't really know. It was like wrestling. I knew it was some sort of ground stuff, ground fighting. And I go in and we try it, get absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
And I was like, what'd you think? I was like, let's just try it. Let's do it together. Like, it'll be fun. I was going through the middle of separation. It's like, I need a good distraction here.
Yeah.
And we just kind of fell in love with it. And my daughter's a soft-spoken, sweet girl, very soft.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, first day, like, first weeks, she's getting all beat up in there, but she's handling it like a champ. Because she sees me, like, and we're just laughing about how, like, it's like, yeah, man, you got choked out by this dude and that dude. And little by little, it's like, okay, we set a goal for ourselves. Like, she wasn't that into it, like, the first 4 or 5 months. It's like, hey, they're always competing. Let's do a competition. Let's just say we did it once.
Yeah.
Just to say we did it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we get to that point, we get to that level. She does her first competition. I do my first competition. I lose to decision, and she wins her first match against the boy. And
Against a boy.
Yeah, against a boy. Like, destroyed him. I was like, oh, this is cool. And she ends up getting silver in that one and then bronze in the no-gi. And so it was nice. Like, a lot of kids, like, they'll cry when they lose. But I think me being there and being like, hey, we're strong. Like, we're learning. This is just an experience.
It's part of the process.
Like, this is not something to get upset about if you lose. And she had such a great attitude. And to this day has never cried on any of her losses.
Wow.
Actually, yeah, she never cried. She cried in a win because she felt like she had to throw up. And then she's crying, and they're like, it's okay, this is not a major tournament. She's like, I'm like, no, she won.
Yeah.
But it's been fantastic because it's just like, first it was me, and now it evolved in her. Like, my example that I set forth and just being there consistently doing it, it's like she took over that. Now she's her own person and she's working hard.
Yeah.
Like, at 11 years old, like, she's doing 100 push-ups a day. Like, I probably couldn't even do 10.
Yeah.
And if I could do 10, it was on my knees.
Yeah.
And I'm a boy,
Yeah.
It's just incredible to see, like, what they can become. And she's got so much more confidence. She's strong.
Yeah.
And she uses her mind. Jiu-jitsu is a very cerebral sport. And it's one of the coolest things to feel is that pride for your kid, being proud. But at the same time, you don't want to be one of those dads that, live their dream through their kid.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like,
You're doing
live it
it with
together.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, we joke around now. She's probably more advanced than I am. So I'm, like, trying to catch up to her. But it's great. Like, she supports me in these tournaments. I support her. And, fast forward, like, a year and a half later, she's here we're here for the PANS Championship. And she's, like, ranked number 2, ready to go. Like, it went from, hey, let's just try this out. Like, it'll be a great experience. Even the PANS Championship to now was like, hey, I think you can win this thing.
Yeah.
And so we'll see.
That's the expectation.
Yeah. And she puts that expectation for herself. And if it doesn't happen, it's okay. We just keep training. We keep that, like, mindset.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine if what I learned from Default Kings, imagine if I would have had that mindset at 10, 11 years old. And that's what I'm able to do for her.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So it's like I'm setting her up for success,
Yeah.
And that's one of those things in life that you know, as you fill your own cup, you know, now you're filling the other cups, and you
Yeah.
feel like a great dad.
Yeah.
And
you
then
can't like pour out into someone else from an empty cup is the interesting thing. So guys, you know, run themselves to the ground and they're like, I have nothing left to give. Let me go try to be a good dad. You're like, you have nothing to give your kid who's like, Dad, give me something.
And here's the thing, you look at the I look at most of the competitors, and most of the ones that end up crying when they lose or having a bad attitude, guess what? Their fathers don't train. Their fathers are like, come on, you gotta get them here. What are you doing?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. They put that pressure on them because they think that it's a performance rather than a process.
Yeah, it's like, dude, like set the example.
Yeah.
Like you're 50 pounds, 30 pounds overweight, and you put your daughter or your son into this sport, and you know, you gotta lead by example.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that all fathers should have, in my opinion.
That's really,
You know.
really interesting.
And it's, I'm not saying like, let's say they're in some martial arts, I'm not saying you have to be in that martial art.
Right.
But dad's got to be strong. Dad's got to have that endurance, and got to
The
be able to,
discipline.
it's got to be able to show that,
you encounter struggle and overcome struggle.
yeah, he's not going to ask you to do more than what he would do.
Yeah. How many fathers do you think struggle with trying to look perfect in front of their kids?
So many, man. So many. It's like a spectrum, but like there's mostly are like just trying way too hard, and then just others just don't try at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to have a balanced approach, but you have to know it's like, hey, you got to make sure you're good, so you can be good for them. It's that simple.
You know, it's I think is really important for fathers to know is like, and again, this is coming from the perspective of a son. I'm really glad you're here to share the other side of it. But I remember I must have been 20 or 21 years old. I was still dealing with a ton of resentment between me and my father because of the things he struggled with in his health. And I was speaking to a mentor who basically shared with me like, Gabe, you know your dad is like a human, right? And I'm like, what do you mean? You're like, you know how you have struggles, like things you deal with that you want to be better at? He's like, you know he has those too, right? Like, he's not a superhero. You know that, right? And I'm like, oh yeah. Like, yeah, that's so true. He's just a man doing everything he can with what he has. Like, it doesn't mean that he doesn't care or doesn't love me because he's not taking care of his health. He's just, it's something he's working through, just like I'm working through things. And the reason I share that is because, like, I wish dads would know that your kids are going to find out, like, everything. They're going to see through the facades. They're going to see through the
They're
lie.
way too smart for their own good.
They're going to find out who you really are. And that's okay. So, number one, like, don't try to avoid it. Just share with them where you're at and who you really are. And also, because they're going to know who you really are, make sure you're giving them a good story. You're going to be able to tell them a good story.
Yeah.
Make sure that at the very least, the story you get to tell your kid, maybe it's not, you know, I'm a jiu-jitsu world champion, or I'm the most shredded person in the world, or I'm the richest man in the world. Maybe it's not that. But it's, hey, like, I am doing the best with what I have. And I'm consistent, and I'm disciplined, and I'm committed, and I keep my word. And I know that losing doesn't mean that I'm a failure. That's what if you showed them that it's okay to lose and keep going because life's a process versus just telling them, right? And so many kids have so much pressure on themselves.
Yes.
To try to be perfect in school, try to be perfect in sports, and they end up crumbling because they can't handle that pressure. But no one ever showed them how to handle that pressure. No one ever showed them how to make it through adversity.
And a big mistake is that the parents will put pressure on top because they see themselves lacking in all these departments, and you don't want them to lack. You don't want them to fail like you failed. But failure is a natural part of life. And that's why I love jiu-jitsu, because I can just correlate so many things to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I laugh when these parents that don't train, their kid gets like smashed and they're mounted on, and they're like, get up, roll him over, come on. And they're like criticizing their kid. I was like, bro, you try getting smashed by another adult and being mounted. Like, I like you to get up and roll over from that.
Yeah, for real.
It's like they don't get it. So it's like a two-part thing.
Yeah,
right?
that's you said something that really was interesting, where it's like the parents fail, and because they didn't have like the fortitude to get up from their failure and keep going, when they see their kids starting to fail, get up! You can't mess up, you can't lose. Because parents never experience like getting up after they lose.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So I've been there, done that now. So, when she takes a loss, I'm there to coach her through it. And she's well more equipped than a lot of these other kids.
Yeah.
Like we went to do American Nationals in Vegas, and she lost, but she lost against maybe the first or second best in the freaking United States.
Yeah.
Like the World League champion of 2023. And she didn't lose bad. She fought through an armbar, lasted the whole 4 minutes. And then she's down on herself. Man, we went all the way to Vegas. And I'm like, dude, we went all the way to Vegas, like, to compete.
Wow, yeah.
Like, you got to reframe their mind. It's
reframe
like,
it.
we got to see our friends.
Yeah.
We had fun. You've never been to the city. She's like, yeah, but you spent all this money. I'm like, money's just a tool.
Yeah. Man.
As kids, like, and we're guilty as parents because we use money as, like, because we spend so much freaking money. It's annoying, honestly. And they don't really, it's funny because they don't understand how hard we have to work for money, but they do understand the importance of it. So, sometimes they'll feel bad because we spend a lot of money, but at the same time, there's sometimes a little bit, hey, we can't just buy this all the time. It's a normal thing for kids. So you got to put that perspective there.
Yeah. Create those boundaries for them. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned like money is a tool, right? And I think that's such a great way to look at money. It's a tool. Like, what are you going to use it for, right? And we talked about this earlier. Blaine sitting right there next to the camera for anybody watching. And Blaine,
we should definitely bring this up.
Yeah,
because I think it's important.
Yeah, this is so important. Blaine just crushed a freaking 50.
This is kind of like this will be kind of like a plug for those who are like on the fence of joining Default Kings.
Yeah.
Or any
But this is a
program that they end up
principle.
going with.
Yeah, like
let's
whatever
talk
it
about
is.
that principle.
Blaine just crushed a 50-mile ultra marathon, which, like, just looking at you here, I'm like, how is that even possible?
So
like, how can a human do that? Right? But we were talking about the process of him doing the first half Ironman. And when he signed up for the first half Ironman, he got a coach immediately. It's just like, I want to succeed at this, so I'm going to get a coach. So you also did that. That's something that I do religiously. Like, I always have a coach or mentor in some area of life where it's like, in business, in relationships, I have a mentor. And I'm just like, I have a coach in jiu-jitsu. Like, who's somebody who can show me how to do this so I can actually succeed at it? So what was that like for you? Like, just literally the mental, I guess, conversation of, I'm actually going to invest in myself. What was that like for you?
I want to backtrack a little bit because we think that we can, like, we're always looking for deals. We're always looking to, save, and because we could find an easier way to do it. It's not always about the easy way. And then we're so, before I get into that, I really want you to reiterate how we're accustomed to even go into depth to educate ourselves through the traditional education system. Yet we don't want to spend money on experts who have already proven themselves in that given thing.
That's a really good point. We talked about this earlier, where people actually don't have an issue spending money or investing money to better themselves, right? Like,
I spent a few $1,000s getting a nutrition certification, right? And teachers going through the books and stuff. But now, why was I hesitating to spend a few $1,000s on a coach that's like been there, done that, can give you like everything that you need and more?
Yeah. That, like, the trajectory change of that is unspeakable. But yeah, people go into tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even sometimes, dollars of debt for an education that they may or may not use. Like, legitimately, let's not even talk about that side of it. People invest in the car that they want, right? People pay for what they value. So I don't even think it's necessarily a problem that people are against investing in themselves. It's that they don't value the right things. Like we were talking about earlier, this kind of goes full circle. Like, how come you won't invest in a skill set that's going to improve your life, in a circle accountability that's going to improve your life, in a skill set that gives you and your daughter the opportunity to bond and compete and develop confidence? Like, maybe your daughter says, like, oh, can I feel bad? We spend all this money to come out here. but you're like, it's a tool. Like
Yeah.
I got to trade digits in my bank account for an experience
Exactly.
that improves you as a human being, right?
That's and yeah, that's exactly what it's all about. And I get it. Like at the end of the day, we have to budget. We have to make sure that we have enough money. We're like hyper conscious about that. But if to go back to the question, like what kind of made me think, or what made me was it like what made me make that commitment?
Yeah.
Decide to make that commitment. It's like when you price things too low, you don't really see as much value in them. And because this was something more specialized, the price is higher. I was like, man, I'm really committing a high number to this. Back then, I didn't really, see it. But then I was like, man, if I'm committed to this and I'm spending this much, I better
Yeah.
take advantage of it. And I think that's what made me, like, if I waste this money, I will feel so stupid.
Yeah.
So that I can, like, honestly, paying more.
Yeah.
There's a funny skit. There's this guy, Nathan Fielder. He had a show called Nathan for You, and it's like parody stuff. But he says that his weight loss program was, if they don't lose the weight, they would something embarrassing would happen.
Yeah.
Right. For us, most of the time, it's like money, right? Well, it's like, oh, we all we stand to lose is money, but that's not embarrassing, right? That's not. It's like, okay, whatever. I lost another $500. Like, I'll make money later. Money is a tool, after all.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like this whole other level of like I will be embarrassed of myself because I lost this money that's important for other things. And in that show, it's funny because like he makes this one lady write a letter of resignation to her employer, and they seal it up. And the letter of resignation is like, "You're an idiot," blah blah. It's just like completely like ridiculous. So she had to lose the weight. If not, they would automatically send that letter.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it was hilarious. So I mean, just you have to put some element of
Investment.
into it.
That's really interesting. So
Got to put it on the line.
yeah, you have to make that investment online. And I think like on the positive side, any dollar you invest into something is like a vote towards how important that is to you. So if you say you value your health, I think you can look at a man where he spends his time and his money as two kind of most valuable resources. Time actually being more valuable than money, right? Because that's truly limited. And you just literally look at your bank statement. What did you spend money on? That's what you value. That is by definition what you value. Right?
Let me stop though, because as I'm thinking about this, it's like I don't want people to think it's like, okay, go buy the most expensive thing, join the most expensive program. That's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is to decide in your mind that whatever you're spending, you're gonna put your all behind it. You make it worth it.
You make it worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people ask me that question sometimes where they're like, I'm just not sure if it's worth that. And I'm like, okay, let's just, go to the logical extreme here. End of your life, X amount of $1,000 extra on, in the Wells Fargo app. Okay. That screen says X amount of $1,000 extra, but you're still overweight, unhealthy, depressed, unconfident. You don't even want to look, at yourself in the mirror, let alone look down type of thing. Right?
Yeah.
But you have a few extra digits paying. Like, what? So, is it, okay, it's worth it. Will you make it worth it, though? Or are you going to squander this? Are you going to make this investment pay you back, or are you going to squander it? Because there can be a common denominator between guys who have joined DK and crushed it, like you, or guys who haven't crushed it so much. And I'm like, you guys kind of paid the same thing. You guys had the same level of support, same exact education. The difference was you.
Yeah.
Did you make it worth it?
It's like we go back to the money as a tool. How do you use that tool? You can have a hammer, but if you're not using the hammer the right way, it's going to take you longer to do the job, or you might not even be able to do it at all.
Yeah, so true. So I'm curious what you think about this, because sometimes like the money isn't even enough, like you mentioned, of an embarrassment to lose for some people, right? Like I've talked to guys who have done these weight loss challenges where it's essentially if you don't lose the weight, then you have to like pay $1,000 at the end, or $1,500 at the end, or whatever it is, or maybe they pay $1,500 and they get it back if they lose weight.
I
Something
always
like
thought that was an interesting idea.
Yeah. And I've talked to so many people who do this and they're like, yeah, I put $1,000 in and I didn't lose weight, so I was out $1,000. I'm just like, okay, so money isn't even enough of a motivator for some people, right? Like, it really isn't. So what to you did you get out of making a commitment to yourself and changing your life that was more valuable than money?
What did I
Like,
get out of it?
let's say what you invested was 10 times as much.
Mm-hmm.
What changed in your life that would have made it worth it even if it was 10 times as much?
What changed in my life? Man, I feel like everything changed. Like, I was going one way, and then this led me to take another more positive turn. And because of that, like, I feel like I'm 10 times better the father than I would have been had I not gone through this. That's the number one thing that I get out of this.
Wow.
More important than the physique that I've been able to achieve, the mental. These are second things. Now I feel whatever relationship I get into next, I'll feel a lot more prepared for that. I feel at 35 years old, I am the most balanced version of myself that I've ever been in life. And I feel like, when you get into your 30s, you should be at that point.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm there. I was like, okay, now let's build everything up.
That's awesome.
And I've got that foundation.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's like the investment, of course, financially, but with your time and your energy that you make into yourself is something that your daughter is going to be able to thank you for, that your future wife is going to be able to thank you for.
Yeah.
Like, my girlfriend right now, when I think about, like, I'm so grateful for everything she did and everything she worked on before we met. I'm like, thank you so much for going through that, working through that, because it made you who you are now. And I'm like, thank you, right?
Man, one of the coolest compliments that I had with a relationship that I've had is that, they're like, oh, you could do better. Like, you always say that, like, to your person, oh, why you pick me? You could do better. And she goes, you are my better. And I'm like, man, that hit. I was like, because I've been working hard for that.
Yeah.
It's like several years in the making.
Yeah. It didn't
So
just happen. Like, when you heard that, you remembered every rep you did. Every freaking gram of protein that you weighed out.
Yeah. It wasn't just physical, it's mental too, right?
Yeah.
So that balance is key. And it's a core thing that we need as men to be able to just progress in life in all those other departments that we care about. And it doesn't mean we can't still enjoy those other things that are not productive.
Yeah.
I'll play video games every now and then. I did chocolate cake yesterday.
Yeah.
Against my
At
will.
La Cantina. The Lingo's La Cantina. I saw that place.
Yeah,
is good.
man. It was good. It's not expensive either. So, like, stuff is okay, but when you have, like, most of the pie is filled with productive things, like, all of a sudden those other things that, if you spend too much time on, they're counterproductive. Now they're actually enjoyable and you appreciate it.
That's so huge. Like, I talk about this, again, we can go into every single aspect of life, but one of the coolest things about when you get in shape is that eating really good food that's high calorie, not healthy for you, is no longer stressful.
Yeah.
There's literally no guilt. Like, we're kind of celebrating, doing a little goodbye here because our little crew is moving out from this neighborhood. And we're going to a place, what's the place called? Fishbones, I think it is. Mm-hmm. It's one of the best restaurants in Orlando, dude. We're going to crush calories. Yeah. We're going to have, I already know what I'm getting. We're going to get a ribeye steak. I'm probably going to have 3,000 calories tonight, legitimately.
Yeah.
But if I was overweight, gluttonous, and every area of my life was struggling.
Chicken salad.
Yeah. Well,
guys, chicken salad.
Not even just that. Like, if I was overweight and every area of my life was, like, struggling because of my weight, and then I had that food, I would feel so guilty because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm making the problem worse. But because I had the discipline and consistency, now I get to actually enjoy that, right? Like, people don't get how great of a feeling that is where you get to now have really good, tasty food and there's no guilt. There's no shame around it.
And then translate it to, like, literally I'm thinking about everything that you do honestly revolves around your how you present yourself and your physique. Because A, now you can enjoy those delicious foods. B, think about your girlfriend, your wife, whatever. Now you look good for them, so they're more attracted to you.
Yeah.
They're going to step their game up. I need to look good for my man.
Controversial opinion, women actually don't prefer dad bods.
Controversial.
Dude.
Don't get me started with that.
I could go deep on that.
I know.
I think
it's a gimmick. It's a psyop.
It's a cope.
Yeah.
Well, women who say that, even women who say that, it's because
they're lazy themselves too.
It's either because they're lazy themselves, and they're like, well, I
I
don't mind his dad bod because I can gain 40 pounds, and then we're at the same level. He won't leave me. Or there's no way my husband's ever gonna have abs. So yeah, I kind of have to convince myself that I like his dad bod.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I get triggered about that.
So now with kids, now you have the energy to enjoy your kids more, and then now you're seen as the cool dad. Like, oh wow, like
my dad does jiu-jitsu,
yeah,
people out.
Exactly.
That's sick.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and what else? Like literally everything is just better. Jobs. Like think about. There's that meme where it's like, hey Linda, how's it going? It's like the guy's fit, and he's like, oh hey,
yeah.
And then the other guy's like, hey Linda,
yeah.
how's it going? And he's like, oh, HR, like,
yeah.
He can afford you so much. I learned a lot, especially from the work side, from Alex Feinberg, like great follow on Twitter. He says like, if you look good, you can get away with so much in the corporate world.
Oh yeah, 100%. And literally, there's just statistics that on average, people who are more attractive literally just make more money.
Yeah.
Well, here's an interesting thing, and this might be controversial for some people, but literally, like for me, for my company, I can't hire people who aren't fit. Like when I put out a job post no, I literally can't. Like when I put out a job post for, hey, we're looking for a sales rep, you're gonna be on camera representing my company. If you're overweight, I literally immediate disqualification. If I hop on a Zoom interview with somebody and they're overweight, I don't literally, no matter what they tell me about what they've done, who they are, no matter how nice of a guy they are, no matter what their skill set is, literally only based on how they look.
Yep.
Sorry, because how you look tells a story about who you are. It tells a story about what you've done. And again, this might hurt some people who are, if you're listening and you're currently struggling. It's not a judgment. It's just what it is.
No. Yeah.
When you see somebody who's overweight, you know what they do in private. You know that they lack discipline. You know that they don't care themselves. You know that they lack self-respect. You know that they overindulge in food.
And if you're one of those people, you need to stop coping and using, they're being judgy. Not being judgy. Well, maybe they're being judgy. Some people are judgy, but
what are you gonna do? People,
it's evident. You're putting out the evidence there for them to see that.
Yeah.
For them to judge you. Don't use that as an excuse.
Yeah. Here's who I am. Here's what I do in private. And conversely, when people look and see you sitting down here and you go like this, and your freaking tricep has a line in it. Oh, that guy works out. Oh, that guy he's disciplined. Oh,
think about the word present. You are presenting yourself. So how do you want to present yourself?
Yeah. I love that. Like the Bible says that a good reputation or good name like goes before you. Like I think a good physique, it goes before you too, because it says before anyone knows anything about who you are, this is who I am.
I love how you guys use many scriptures talking about how health is important, because unfortunately I feel like, yes, our spirituality is very, very important. Getting close to God is very, very important. But when you're physically capable, you're such in a better place to be able to do that. And sometimes within the church, they're like, oh no, don't worry too much about that. No, you have to worry about that. You have to be at your tip top to serve God.
Yeah.
In whichever capacity you decide to serve Him, like you need to be able to, like, be at the tip top shape for that, like physically.
Amen.
Even if this world is temporary and our physical bodies are temporary,
we're still put here for a reason, temporarily, to wage this spiritual war.
Yeah.
One of the countless pastors who joined DK because they're like, dude, I saw myself on camera when I was preaching my Sunday sermon, and I was talking about discipline, and I looked like a fraud. Countless. I literally can't count how many people have told me that. another thing that was really, really heartbreaking was one time there was this guy who joined who was a Catholic priest, and he was telling me about how, like, Gabe, people call me to come pray for them, and I have to get on my knees and pray for them, and I cut my prayer short because I can't stay on my knees that long on the ground because I'm too heavy. And I'm like, bro, to pretend that your physical doesn't affect the spiritual is so completely backwards. If the physical had nothing to do with the spiritual, there's no point for Jesus to come down in the form of man. No point. But it does. There's something there, right? So, yeah, I love that. Man, we can go deep on this. So, we've been going for a while. One thing I do want to talk about for fun is just jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about jiu-jitsu.
Let's do it.
It's so awesome.
Clip this.
so-
a bunch of clips out of this.
You won the last tournament you competed.
Yeah.
Okay, this was last weekend. You posted this video on your Instagram, and it was like, I don't even remember exactly how you got into the position, but you were in this deep arm bar, and this dude is yanking on your arm.
Yeah.
And I'm watching him like, oh, God.
You kind of cringe a little
Oh,
bit,
like, it's
right?
gonna break! And he somehow escaped. And you then submitted him, right?
Yes.
So, okay.
You want me to tell you everything that went through my mind?
Yeah.
Okay. So I try takedown, doesn't work, and we both kind of come down awkwardly, and I get a good De La Riva position, but he's blocking the leg, and he just like randomly I'm grabbing the collar, and he just takes this arm, swings over, and arm bars me. Does everything. It was kind of unorthodox, but everything else he did was textbook, because I was stuck.
Yeah.
What went through my mind in those moments? Obviously, everything I went through, going through you guys, that like prepared me to just handle tough situations. That's one thing. Like, if we want to go, let's backtrack a little back to this whole program and my whole trajectory is I built a layer of toughness, where I can endure difficulties. So I have this expectation for my kid, and I want to set the example. So I'm there in an arm bar. I'm like, kids, they'll usually just call it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you going to call it? And I'm like, holy crap, he completely surprised me. And here's my arm, and I'm like, okay, this hurts, but not enough for me to tap. My kid's watching me. Other people are watching me. My teammates watching me. Like, I cannot give up. And like all these, I was in that arm bar for like 10 seconds. He's like stomping, and I'm like, nope. Finally, I get some momentum. I think he tries to come up too. And that's just the moment where I'm like, all right, let's get up, go around him, get him, and then take his back. And then I did a choke I've never done before in a tournament, which is a bow and arrow. But yeah, it was a great, a great moment. It's funny. And like, I get up and I'm like, I have no idea how this happened.
Yeah.
I was not expecting a 1.5 minute match with so much action.
Yeah.
And
Like a near arm break.
Yeah, it's like
Escape.
at that point,
Submission.
it's like 99% he's gonna win. And he was doing something that I like to do, is like you stomp on on their face, and he wasn't being nice about it, which he was doing great on that. And it's like, I'm stuck. And I probably had like 7-8 pounds on him. Like, he was on the lower side, I was on the heavier side of that weight division. And I was like, okay, this hurts, but you know what? It doesn't hurt enough.
Dang.
And I just fought it out.
That's
fought it out.
crazy.
Did not want to look back.
That's awesome. Dude, that's awesome. I love.
So at that moment, I was like, am I about to lose? I was like, man, there's a good chance I may lose, but you know what? I'm not. And it's crazy because a lot of people, they just mentally tap, so then they physically tap.
Yeah.
And I didn't mentally tap. I was like, I very well knew, I might lose, but my body is still going.
That's the one thing. First of all, insane story. One of the things I love about jiu-jitsu, this has nothing to do with how good someone is, but it'll expose somebody's character, like, in a moment. Because there's people who tap, like you said, mentally, where you can have them in a submission and you're like, the choke wasn't in.
Yeah, and they just tap.
And they just tap.
Mhm.
You're like, you just thought it was going to be in, and you didn't have, number one, like any resilience to be able to maybe just try to withstand it just a tiny bit.
This is why competition is good, because I get it. In class, you might tap because you have many rounds,
Sure.
but in competition, you gotta face that. But yeah,
Yeah.
keep going.
Well, it's like, dude, the amount of times that you go with somebody and they just mentally tap and you're like, I didn't even submit you. You submitted yourself. Like, you literally
You
submitted
could've-
because you didn't believe you could win or survive. You submitted yourself. And that, like, taking it back again, metaphor for life. People take themselves out of the fight just because they don't believe they'll win.
Yep.
So they don't even give themselves a fighting chance. Well, dude, you know, I've lost this weight before and I gained it back every single time. I'm not even going to try again. Cool. You just submitted yourself. Nothing beat you. Nothing overcame you. Like, you're not dead and gone. You just took yourself out of the fight because you didn't believe that you could have won.
That is a bunch of kids. That's why my daughter, in 1.5 years of training, these other gray blacks, she's gray white still, she's beating them because she never gives up, because she sees dad, like dad doesn't give up, dad endures all this. So yeah, you see a lot of the kids, they just like, they get put into, they get down on points. They're down.
Give up.
And I saw how my daughter, she went from kind of like that, like the moment they're in side control, they just settle. And they're like, okay, now what? But now it's like little by little, if she gets her guard passed, you know, she's trying to recover, going in a turtle, doing whatever. Or, and it went to that, to now it's like, no, they're not passing my guard. Like, she's freaking stretching all over, and it may look that it's bad, but all of a sudden, boop, recover.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, these kids, like, it's really their mental that gets them down. So you got to be a good, good leader, a good parent to show them that, you know, don't tap yourself. You know,
Don't sub yourself out.
don't
of the game.
lose. Don't lose. Like, sometimes it'd be crazy. It's like from the get go. You know, it's jiu-jitsu is also a very psychological game.
Oh my gosh.
So psychological.
So psychological.
It's like 3 mental games in one, and then the physical side.
Yeah, the physical, like, the
Because I'm trying to
logical-
deceive you, right? You know, you think I might go for one move, so you're already expecting it. You're ready to counter. I was like, nah, I'm getting counter.
Yeah.
You're looking for the counter of the counter. That's one thing. Then your own mental, the mental battle with
your
yourself.
plan. It's like your plan and then you reacting to their plan at the same time.
And then adjusting to the impromptu stuff.
Yeah,
that
and then the
just randomly
improvisation where
happens.
you're like, oh, nobody saw it. Like, I had no idea this was coming. But
Yes.
here's where we're at.
How did it's like, only in jiu-jitsu can you end up in the weirdest positions
It's so
of your life.
interesting because when you roll with somebody and they do certain things, you can literally, like, people say that it's a martial art, like jiu-jitsu is an art. And I really understand that because how somebody rolls is an expression of their personality. Like 100%. If somebody's like super devious and sneaky when they roll and all they do are these weird like setups, you're like, bro, you're like a slick, like, you're a trickster.
Yeah.
Like, they are, and they probably are. If all they do is like these weird wrist locks and they like try to lock your ankles when you take their back, you're like, bro, come on. Like, you're a BSer.
And then the poker face of jiu-jitsu. Like one of my best buds, Donnie, like I did that, tried to ankle lock him when he took the back, and I'm like, ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
He's military guy, strong. And then I go, and I finally let go of it, and I'm like, man, I guess that didn't work. I didn't do it right. He's like, oh no, you did it right. That hurt like.
Yeah.
And then other times it's like you're getting choked and you're just like acting like you're completely fine, and then later on, or you're doing the choke, and then later on your partner's like, it's like, bro, you had that. You're like, I did. And you're like, yeah, I was like, man, you got a good poker face.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you get them to leave that, abandon that submission.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what it's all about. You got to have a good poker face too. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do that if the submission's in and you're freaking red.
Yeah, you're just gonna go.
There's no way to poker through that.
Yeah, 100%. There's some things you can't.
You might be taking a little nap.
Yeah, I remember when I first started training, there was this moment where, dude, it must have been my 3rd, 4th class. It was early, and somebody had me in a head and arm choke. Which, if you don't know what that is, it's
Almost like an arm triangle.
like an arm triangle, and it's, I don't know, the head and arm any choke with the arm in, like a triangle, like it's just so brutal. Like a rear naked choke sucks, obviously, you can go out. But like a choke with your arm in is just like, you're getting squeezed so hard. The pain, it's so painful. So it's literally like you're like this, and somebody either takes their arms or their legs and like squeezes this together so hard that you're gonna pass out. So anyway, somebody has me in a head and arm choke, and they're just, and I'm like, oh my god, I had no idea what this cape was at the time. And I'm like, gargling. If you've never gargled, like against
Yeah,
your
I'm
will, guys, like the jiu-jitsu it'll change your life. You will gargle against your will. Another human will make you go like,
Yeah.
literally, because you're getting choked out so hard. And I'm like can't breathe. And I just like spaz. And I have like, dude, it felt like I was having a panic attack.
Yeah.
Because I was like, my brain thought I was gonna die. And it's so crazy that like what jiu-jitsu will do is put you in those positions where like your brain, your subconscious mind can't tell the difference between like, is this jiu-jitsu? Are we really dying? Are we being like chased by a guy with a knife? Like, what's going on? It's just peak stress, and you learn how to work through that. It's so powerful.
Yeah, we're talking about that. Like, and when you first start, a lot of times you'll just tap to pressure because you're scared something's about to happen. Then 3 months in, it's like, oh, I know this is coming. Let me try to find. Yeah, I'm getting smashed, but let me find a pocket of air here.
Yeah.
I can endure this.
Yeah.
It sucks a lot, but you still make it through.
Yeah.
And then you just get better.
Yeah, I remember when I first started, like you get beat up so bad, obviously, because you don't know anything. And dude, like I would say for the first 3 months, I would still get nervous driving to the gym. I literally I'd be driving to the gym and be like, oh my gosh, I'd get those butterflies in my stomach.
Getting humbled by teenagers, little teenagers.
The first time I ever rolled with anybody, a 13-year-old like armbarred me. I was like, oh, what the heck? Like, you're gonna break my arm.
Oh, I've been choked out by like 14-year-old girls. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't been submitted by a woman yet. I will say that.
Oh.
I've never been submitted by a female. I haven't. I've been submitted by children, but I haven't. And not children, yes. Females, no, yet. So maybe me talking about this is gonna bring it on.
Let's get some
I'm just gonna
female
stop
black
talking.
belts up
I'm just
here.
gonna stop talking right now. I haven't submitted by a woman yet. But
Let's get in the gi. I bet you it'll happen.
if I go with a black belt female in a gi, yeah, I should probably pull something on me. No gi though, bro, I'll slip out of it. I'll risk it. I'll let her break it. Nope, break it. I'm not doing it. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, the hardest, emotionally, the hardest things I've ever endured, they're other life stuff for sure. But just mentally, dude, nothing is as intense as you would die if you don't tap. Because that's literally what's happening is if you didn't tap in this situation, you would have died.
Yes.
You would have died. And that's such a humbling thing where you're like, oh, if we weren't in a padded room with witnesses, this person could have ended my life here today, and it only took them 1 minute.
Yeah. That's humbling.
That's humbling.
Super humbling. Because it puts a spark on you. It's like, dang, I need to get stronger. I need to get more skilled. But at the same time, it's like, man, I always have to know where I'm at and know that there's going to be other people who can do that to me.
Mm-hmm. Dude, the funniest thing in the world is people who think they can see red. They're like, bro, I'll just see red. My mentality is so crazy. Dude, I don't care how strong your mindset you think your mindset is. If you aren't prepared for the fight, you won't win the fight. That's the funniest thing in the world. Because, dude, when I started jiu-jitsu, I was already super strong, super lean. I already felt like I'd been through a lot and accomplished some things in business. I was like, I'm a pretty strong, mentally tough dude. Doesn't matter. You're not prepared for the fight. You have to be prepared for the fight. If you didn't do it, it doesn't matter. Another interesting thing, I'm curious your thoughts on this is, I've seen people who start training and they never train again. Because everybody, when they start training, you get humbled. You realize, okay, you get humbled, right? And then some people are like, this is something I need to get better at some point, whether they get into it right away or they do it again or they train it at some point. This is something I need to get better at. And some people are like, I'm never going to do it again. Same experience. But I think what that tells you is some people, their mindset is more, I don't like being humbled and I don't like losing. The other person is, I want to get better. Have you seen that?
Oh, absolutely. That's why you need to look at it from a different lens. The traditional lens that society kind of teaches us to look at it is not like jiu-jitsu's kind of like the opposite of a lot of the way society does things. So yeah, I mean, they say that 90% don't even make it to blue belt. They stay at white belt. You know, they get frustrated because they're just getting smashed all the time. You know, that's why some of these more like commercial gyms, they have fundamentals classes. I don't really like that. And a lot of competitors, a lot of people who really want to get better, they don't like those gyms. It's for some people. But
Fundamentals class in the like classes where you can't roll.
exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Exactly.
Because they have fundamentals at our gym, but like you're going.
Oh yeah,
You're
yeah.
gonna-
No, I know some. Man, who cares? We'll say name. A lot of the Gracie gyms.
Yeah. That name's come up multiple
Yeah,
times,
not
but-
to knock them at all, but
not
like,
to knock them,
but I am
the
kind of
McDojos. The McDojos.
Yeah, it's like you have to have X amount of classes first, and you have to do just fundamentals, and it's I had a friend that they're like, man, I wasn't even breaking a sweat. It's like, now you have to get thrown in there.
You gotta get thrown in there.
But the reason why they do that is because people are so soft nowadays. It's like, oh, they're getting smashed.
Yeah.
They're not going to want to come back.
The only way they'll stay is if they don't actually encounter struggle.
Exactly. So it's all about your mindset. That's why jiu-jitsu isn't for everyone. I saw a reel. It says jiu-jitsu is not for everyone, but it is for anyone.
Yeah.
Fat, skinny, old.
Yeah. Anyone can do it, but
young.
not everybody will
Yes.
want to do it. It won't fit how
So
everybody
that's couldn't be any more true.
Yeah, I remember this really interesting moment I experienced on the mats. I must have been 6 months in or so, and I was doing a no-gi sparring class, which these are just like the sweat puddles, just the wars.
Yes,
right?
I've been through those.
Just the
You think you're about to pass their guard, and all of a sudden you slip right into their guard.
dude, well, sometimes the coach like doesn't turn on the fan, so we do it on purpose. Right, like this, it was 2 days ago. We were doing one of these, and like I was in a position with somebody. I was like in half guard, and like I just like turn my face and like you drink their sweat. You literally, like you're cringy over there. You know. But
yeah,
dude,
when
like,
I'm practicing with my daughter, and she's like, ugh. Like,
yeah. Well, dude, like I was literally like in top half, and I was like, oh god, because I was drinking so much sweat. Oh my god, that'll change your life. Just that. I don't even know what else. Anyway.
So many jokes, like so many like humorous things that we can. This is like a whole culture, man.
Dude, it's so funny. But anyway, I remember the story. I was we're in between rounds at this class, maybe 3 rounds in, and there's this guy there who, obviously not gonna name his name, but he's just if you go up to my room, it's no, you're good. No, you're totally good. Don't worry.
We can edit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it never happened.
Yeah, there's my room is all the way to the right. You'll see I left the door open. The bathroom's in there. Yeah,
You'll find it.
Yeah, he'll find it.
Thank you.
Yeah. But so we show up to this class and we're like 3 rounds in. You know, we're on the wall, just resting a minute before we go to the next one. And this guy, who there's no PG way to say what kind of guy this is. He's I'm not gonna say it, but he's not a tough guy. I'll say. Exactly. Yeah. He's a little thing. But we're in between rounds, and he's like, "Hey, coach, I'm gonna head out. I got a mat burn or whatever." And it was a pretty gnarly mat burn. Like I was like, "Oh yeah, that doesn't look fun." But he had a mat burn, and my coach was like, "Oh, that's okay. Like we have bandages. Like I'll go grab one. I'll tape you up." As in like, don't worry, it's cool. You can still roll.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, "Oh no, I'm just gonna go home." Like, and then I was kind of looking at the coach, and we kind of both were like, "Oh, okay." And so the coach was like, I have a bandage. Like, you don't want to roll?" And he's like, and the coach was just like, "You know what? Like, just go home. Like, go home.
You don't want to be there.
Yeah. Like, and we don't want you here.
Yeah.
We don't want you here." So one of the things that's really interesting that I've experienced in jiu-jitsu is like, people, there's memes about like the mat bully type of thing.
Yeah,
And
the
like
mat enforcer.
I'm a nice guy. Like I'm not saying I've never been mean to anyone, but I'm a generally friendly person.
Yeah.
And like I want everybody to come to jiu-jitsu and come train. That's great. I don't care who you are. Like beautiful. It's awesome, right? But there is something where I'm like, if you're not gonna at least try or push me, get out.
Yeah.
Because you're just a wasted round. Not that you're a waste of a human being, but you're not making me better. You're not even trying to make yourself better. Even if you suck, and I didn't necessarily get better that round, which you can get better at any round, it doesn't matter what. But even if you suck, if I don't see that you're going to try to be better, you're taking up space.
Yeah, because at least you know you're gonna whoop someone, but they genuinely are curious. Like, oh man, how do you do this? Like,
Yeah.
It's like, hey, look, I did this to you, and it's like you're walking them through what you did to them, which is kind of like reinforces like, and you're doing something the right way. It's like you feel good about that, right?
And it makes you better. And then eventually, like, it's so cool the amount of guys who start 6 months to a year after you or whatever, and then they become like war training partners. You're like, heck yeah, like you became a really good training partner. But the people who show up and like don't even try, you're just like, bro, like, get out. Stop wasting everybody's time. Yeah, so that's super interesting. What's up, bro?
I'm in the car.
Cool. Are you gonna head out?
Probably not, actually.
Okay. See you, bro.
See you later.
Like that.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're good.
I just realized I parked in 2-hour parking and it's been like 3 hours. So,
Yeah.
see you guys later.
See you, bro.
All right,
See you
bro.
later. But yeah, it's like the most. I don't know. These jiu-jitsu schools are such an interesting social dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the kids, man. Like, I'll be there looking at these kids, and like they're all like, they all got their personalities. You know which ones are soft. You know which ones are, some are skilled but soft. Some are hard but they're not that good.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the adults. It's a cool thing to see. But that's the thing that you said. It's like everybody wants to get obviously better at jiu-jitsu, but it's a mental thing too. So even if someone sucks, but they're there day in and day out, like those higher belts that have been there, they respect you.
Yeah.
Because you're putting in the time. Yeah. It's like, okay, you suck.
Yeah.
But they're not going to tell you you suck.
No.
They want to encourage you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no, they're here like, yeah, man, keep it up. Keep going.
Yeah.
Because you're the type of person that I would want to hang around with.
Yeah, exactly. It literally builds trust because you see how somebody responds to stress, right? So, yeah.
It's crazy the different people that it just brings together. Just from like that core value set. And it's made me realize, jiu-jitsu's made me realize I can get along with anyone.
Because you respect them because of how they handle stress. It's insane. So, I think one of the coolest things that me and Joey do is we train together. Like, and as a business partner, dude, I get to see this guy when he wants to quit and see if he quits, and he gets to see me when I want to quit, and he gets to see
That's
if I
what
quit.
makes y'all better.
So I know he won't quit because I see it. I've seen it thousands of times on the jiu-jitsu mats. Same thing with him. The other funny thing is we know when we're being little bitches. And we know because we're like,
come on, bro.
Are you trying, bro? What are you doing? That ain't you. What are you? Come on, are you even trying? So if we ever have those off days where we kind of like don't do our best, we'll be like, bro, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
That ain't you. So it builds such an interesting bond. It's really, really cool. Yeah.
It's so important to have that, like at least that one. I mean, you have a lot of training partners, but that one training partner, that you spend a little extra time, y'all become good friends. In your case, like he's your business partner. For me, it's like Stefan.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm proud of him. He like won Pans a couple months ago, but like we keep each other in check. It's like, man, I can't let him overpass. Like he started taking some private lessons, and then all of a sudden I'm like, man, he's getting better than me. And now I'm like, now I need to take private lessons, and it's not an ego thing. It's not anything. It's just like you want to keep pace with your partner to be good for them, and they be good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that's like if you serve them better, they'll serve you better. Right?
Precisely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's incredible. Well, dude, we can do this for hours.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you so much for doing this, bro.
No, I appreciate that. It's a great opportunity to kind of like go back now that it's been, I think, 3 years.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
2021 is
Yeah.
when I got started with you
Yeah.
guys, and it's been nice to be in this alumni program. So I keep in touch with the guys, and then specifically, with you and Joey, we talk here and there, and we can go months not talking, and then we talk again, or I come visit, and it's like we're like brothers,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
That's the other interesting part about this is like when you see somebody go through the struggle, like we literally just trust you because
Yeah.
we're like we see how he behaves,
Exactly.
and like so we like that.
Oh, let's end on this note. Is that going through Default Kings helped me choose the right people to surround myself with. That and I feel like when you go through, what you guys are doing, you'll be more prepared to choose the right association. Because what does the Bible say in Corinthians about bad association? Will spoil your habits. So you want to, excuse me, iron sharpens iron. You guys say that, it's on your t-shirts and everything. So that's another core thing that throughout all this we never mentioned is how it gives you that great association.
That's awesome.
Or even if you don't make any friends out of it, now you know who to look for in a friendship or in a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I love that. Great note to end on.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, bro.